Please not completely now, please. Why don't you put it on now, and then let's see if you'll see the noises. All right, I'm going to turn the camera off. So this is. All right, camera's going off. Oh, I should be further back. Okay. So where are you going to be? Because there's a lot of stuff to come in that doorway to come in that way. Right. We should have a perfect studio also, but we don't. Mm-hmm. Okay, pictures off, sounds off, now to get dressed. Oh, I don't have that. Have to look for it. Oh, Norman's leading, not me. You can do it.
Rabbi, is that you? And you could start. We're all live.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. All right. So welcome and thanks, Dina. And again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand for Dina. And we're doing two dishes tonight. The first one is cholent. Now, cholent has many varieties. I'm doing the very simplest cholent there is for you first timers. And just a little bit of background. The word cholent, they think, comes from the French. Cholent is a dish that you put on a very low oven, you leave it overnight, and traditionally it's eaten for lunch on Shabbat, because if you're not cooking on Shabbat, it's something you can put in the oven and just leave overnight, and then by the time you're ready, you come home from shul, the food's ready. So we had a good friend in Hamilton, a man named Mr. Krakauer, who grew up in Czechoslovakia in this little town of Nicholsburg. And he told us and our kids, when he was a little boy, the town baker would leave the bakery unlocked and leave the oven on at low, and all the Jews in town would bring their big pot of cholent, put it in just before Shabbat would start, and then when shul was over on Saturday morning, the youngest child in every family would run to the bakery, which was unlocked. I mean, the trust that went on, and they'd go and get their cholent pot and bring it home for lunch. So they think that it comes from chaud, S-C-H-A-U-D, which is French for to warm or to cook, and lent, L-E-N-T, which is slowly. So something that cooks very slowly. All right, so we're going to start with the ingredients. And then when I have a chance, I'm going to give you a little bit of a Yiddish lesson and maybe a bit of a Shabbat lesson, depending on how the time goes. All right, so the very first thing, if you go to a good Jewish supermarket, you're going to see, can you see that all? Yeah, oh, there we go. So it's a pre-made cholent mix of beans that you can buy, and that's the easiest thing to do. Or you can simply make a mix of cranberry beans and white beans and navy beans. So these are the beans, and I've got a crock pot here, but you can also do it in a foil pan and just put the pan in the oven. So I'm going to use the crock pot. So you just layer your beans in the bottom of the crock pot. And
Rabbi, there was already a question. Do we use the whole packet of beans?
Depends how big your crock pot is. This is a smaller crock pot. I use a little under half of that package. But if I had a big pot, I would use most of the package. Ellen says for an 8 quart, you use the whole thing. Okay. So and this is in Cousin Bear's honor. These are black-eyed peas, a southern specialty. So I sometimes add black-eyed peas to the cholent. And also, this is personal, I also add, I don't want to tip them, but I have black beans that I also add. All right. The best thing about cholent is it's completely forgiving. Like there's not exact measurements. If you put in too much of the beans or too much of anything really, it all just cooks so slowly that it works out. All right, so once we've got our beans, the next
I have a quick question. Are the beans dried or?
Yeah, they're dried beans. Yeah.
So
they're dried beans, yeah. It's also a very inexpensive dish. So, in poor towns in Europe, it was a way to stretch your protein by having small amounts of beef and adding beans and barley to it. So the next is barley. And I've got about a half of a cup of barley that I'm going to put in. Okay. Next. Okay, so now the meat, which is here. So I've got a pound of meat here. You could use a pound to 2 pounds of meat, again, depending on the size of your cholent pot. You can use chuck steak or shoulder steak. Now, when I went to Seasons, you'll all love this. This was labeled Shabbos meat. So I'm assuming it's meant for cholent. I've just cut it into small pieces. And I'm going to put the meat in. And of course, the more meat you put in, the richer your cholent will be. I know there are people, I think Cheryl and Sam, people put in a whole kishka. You can do all kinds of variations, but you want some meat to give it a richness. All right.
Rabbi,
Yes.
you didn't soak the beans overnight, did you?
I don't bother with that. I just put them right in. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of recipes will tell you to do that. It's easy cholent. Okay. All right. Okay, next is, now I've pre-chopped all this, so I've got my onions, chopped onions that I'm gonna layer in on top. Okay. And on top of the onions, I've got cut up carrots. By the way, one of the nice things about these two recipes is there are a lot of some similar ingredients. So while you're chopping for one, you can be chopping for the other. So I've got cut up carrots. Some people like them really fine. I like it more chunky. So just layer the carrots in here. And you can't go wrong. You can't make a wrong cholent. You know, if you change the order of it, it's not going to matter. Now, this you won't find in very many cholents. I take a little bit of eggplant and chop it into really small pieces, and it gives a really nice body to the cholent. So if you can see, I've got it just really diced. So I put in you know, a handful or two of the eggplants. All right, is the speed okay? Am I going too fast, too slow? Everything good? Yeah, Dina, okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect, I like perfect. Okay.
I have a question, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Do you sear your meat at all beforehand?
I did nothing to it. I took it out of the freezer. I let it defrost, and I cut it in cubes, and that's all I do. Some people do sear. Like, there's lots of things you can do to add flavor to make it fancy. This is like a really basic cholent.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next, next I've got 2 tablespoons of oil. Not everybody adds this. I just think it makes it a bit richer. It's very little oil. 2 tablespoons. And then, where is the ketchup? Right here. Where? Ah, okay. So I've seen cholent recipes that use chili sauce, barbecue sauce, tomato paste. Again, really simple. I've got 1/3 cup of ketchup, which I'm going to put in. And next is either soy sauce or tamari. And you just sprinkle it liberally. Gives a nice flavor to the meat. Again, you can't really go wrong with too much or too little. And you'll get to know your own taste. So I sprinkle the tamari in there. Oh, by the way, if you want to do a vegetarian cholent, instead of meat, you can put in prunes, and I would do them very liberally. And it gives it a nice sweet flavor. You can add a bit of honey with the prunes, and that will make it a great vegetarian cholent. And the only thing left now are the spices. And then once you've done that, you want to cover everything with water almost to the top of the pot. This is going to cook for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Some people do it longer if you want it really, really thick. Every couple of hours, I check it because some of the water will evaporate, and I refill the water and stir it. That's because the beans are going to swell with the water. So now, these are the basics. You got pepper and garlic and paprika. And that's a really basic cholent. So again, you can't really go wrong. So I'm just going to sprinkle in some pepper. You can go very, very liberal with the garlic. In a Jewish cholent, you can't really put in, there's no such thing as too much garlic. You can also put in garlic cloves if you wanted. So I'm going to sprinkle the garlic. And paprika, which gives it color and gives it a bit of a bite. And that pretty much is your cholent. I'm going to add the water, of course. Here's, if you feel adventurous, you can add cumin. I know some people love cumin, some people don't love it at all, but I really like it. It gives a really interesting kind of Far Eastern flavor. And when I add cumin, I also add a little bit of cinnamon, and the two of them give it kind of a smoky flavor. And you can add a bit of curry if you like curry. And pretty much there isn't anything you couldn't add. But the basics are garlic, pepper, and paprika. And then if you want to get fancy, you can add any of these other flavors. Next, I'm sorry I don't have an overhead camera like Sue Ann Nivens, the happy homemaker. But I'm just going to add water to top it off. And on goes the lid. You plug it in, you leave it for 8 to 10 hours. A lot of the crock pots have a timer on them. And every couple of hours, just check it out. Oh, and the other thing, I taste it along the way, depending on how many beans you have, the carrots, how much it absorbs. You likely will want to add more spices as it goes along. A lot of people put potatoes in. I don't like potatoes, but a lot of people add potatoes. They also absorb a lot of spice. So every couple of hours, just test it, see if it tastes spicy enough to you, and add more spice. And that's an easy cholent.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
My question is, it's layered in. You don't mix it up before you put the cover on. You just let it stay as it was layered.
You could mix it. You don't have to, because you got the water in there. And then within an hour or two, you're going to stir it and check it at that point. Yeah. Like cholent is the least fussy thing that you can make.
Got it.
Think of that little Mr. Krakow. You got this big pot. You throw everything in. You put it in the baker's oven. You come back the next day. Yeah, it's really
Guys, what kind of paprika? What kind of paprika do you use?
What kind of paprika?
Paprika.
The kind that's in my cupboard. It says ground paprika. You could use any kind.
Yep.
Yeah, any
It's
kind.
sweet. All right, doesn't because they're sweet, they're spicy. I'm just curious. Okay.
So it would be by taste.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
you can't go wrong. It's going to
Okay.
absorb the flavors. You just do what you like.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
when I lived in Israel in the late 80s at Neve Shechter,
Oh yeah.
I spent many Shabbatot with my cousins, and she married an Iraqi guy. And
Right.
listen to this, it's a pachke, but listen to this incredible addition to cholent.
Okay.
She would take hard-boiled eggs
Oh yeah.
and put them in the cholent. But many people do that.
Yeah.
Just put hard-boiled in the cholent, and over the period of over 8-10 hours, whatever, that the egg, the white of the egg will absorb all these flavors. So before lunch, in the morning, she would take the eggs out, let them cool, and then make an Iraqi egg salad like this. She would take the eggs, mash them up, and put in chopped mint, cracked black pepper, and it would be a Vorspeisen for the cholent. In other words, so for Shabbos lunch, you had this incredibly wonderful egg salad, and I don't even know if she even used mayonnaise or anything like that, but made it was great on a piece of challah or just even by itself.
Yeah. By the way, what Cousin Bear just pointed out, that's the amalgam of Israel. When you said an Iraqi person making cholent, that's like cholent is from the heart of Europe. It's from a northern climate where you're doing this slow cooking thing. Iraqis don't make cholent as an original dish, but to make it, add that, and then do the mint. That's how foods get invented as they go along.
Rabbi, Iraqi cholent is made of rice and chicken.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, not beans.
Cooked overnight, but no meat, no beans, no.
Right. Yeah. Okay, now I think a little bit of a history lesson before.
Rabbi, just a quick question. Ramona missed the water part. It goes on top of all the stuff, correct?
Well, Ramona, once you put everything in, then you pour water on top. You want to cover all the ingredients and run the water till near the top of the pot. And so that, because all those beans are going to absorb the water, and in an hour or two, you're going to stir everything. and then you're going to add more water. Each time you open it and check it, you add water to recover the ingredients and then stir it again.
Rabbi, can you put oregano in it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you could. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I like oregano. I like
In
Italian.
fact, I put oregano here, and I thought, okay, I'm only going to give them so many experimental things. I put caraway. If you like caraway, that's really delicious in there. Yeah, oregano would be good. Yep. Any more questions? Okay, here's a little bit of a history lesson. Just now, I can't see the gallery view anymore, but just a show of hands, I can see a few of you. What languages would you say Yiddish is made up of? Put up your hand if you think you know.
German.
Okay, what German? Did I say here German?
Yes, I said
Hebrew and
German.
German.
Okay, German and Hebrew. Now, almost anyone you ask will say Yiddish, German, and Hebrew.
Russian.
Here's the true history. Around the year 100 and 200, Jews were spreading into the Roman Empire. In fact, at one point, around the year 200, Rome itself was 10% Jewish. Rome was 10% Jewish.
Wow.
Jews started to borrow Latin words and mix them with Hebrew, and that was the beginning of the language that we now call Yiddish. It was a mixture of Latin and Hebrew. Through the centuries, Jews moved up into Middle Europe, into Germany, what's now France, and then up into the Slavic countries. Most of the Latin got dropped. They picked up Slavic words, they picked up Middle German words to form, even some Persian words to form what we now call Yiddish. So here's something interesting. A couple of words that we use all the time in shul are still left over from the Roman times, okay? If I say to you, let's daven our service, from davine, to be in contact with the divine in Latin. D-A-V-I-N-E-R is the verb. So we say to daven. And what do we do after we have a meal with bread? We bench from the Latin benedictus, which is a blessing. So there's just a few of the leftovers. So it was originally Hebrew and Latin, dropped the Latin as we moved up into Europe, and then absorbed more and more words. Okay, so I'm going to move the cholent aside, and we're going to move. Oh, okay, I'm going to move into this eggplant dish. All right, one bowl. You're going to cook it in the microwave. Oh, you know what? I have a couple of pictures. Let me show you. Most of you have seen cholent, but let me show you what I've got. Oh, Dina, can you? It says the host disabled participant sharing screen.
You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah,
You are the co-host, right?
Yeah. It looks
Are
like
you able to do it now?
Let's try. Ah, you are magic. Hold on. Okay, share screen. No. Wait, here we go. Okay, so, okay, I got a chart here. Okay, here's what the cholent looks like before the heat goes on. You can see the carrots, the onions, the chunks of meat. Okay, eggplant. Okay, here's a cholent 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours later. And there's a look at the cholent. And just to be fancy, there's cholent before and after. All right? What the heck? Okay, now I'm going to make this. Huh?
Quick question. I didn't hear what kind of meat.
Oh, you can use either chuck steak or shoulder steak. Those are the two usually.
Cut into cubes?
I was saying this one was labeled Shabbos meat. So if you go to.
But is it cut into cubes?
Yeah, cut into little pieces, about like that.
Little pieces. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so the eggplant dish I'm going to make. Once we've got everything in this single bowl, you're going to put it into the microwave for 12 minutes. Let it sit for 5 minutes. put it in for another 12. And the test is if the onions and the carrots are soft. And if they're not soft, then do it for another 12 till you like it. But I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, let me go back to screen sharing, and then we'll do the ingredients. Share, okay. Show it. Okay, here's onion. Okay, here's what it's going to look like when it's all in the bowl before you cook it. Okay, and then once it's cooked, here it is served on a plate. And if you want to get a little fancy, there you go. All right. So it's a nice side dish. Or you put tofu in and it's a good main dish. So, all right. So I took a raw eggplant and just cut it into cubes. And I'm going to just, again, it's just layering. Just going to layer the eggplant into the bowl. Okay, next I've got onions also cut into pieces. So you're going to layer your onions on top of the eggplant. And next is chopped celery. Now, if you have when I say a stalk, like I mean the whole thing, you know, with the 4 or 5 stalks together, and I would chop about 1/3 of it, of the entire stalk, and add that. Okay. And now, next is a 1/2 can of chickpeas. So I'm just going to drain them. Okay, so these are canned chickpeas. Just drain the moisture out of them and put that on top. Next are carrots. So the onions and carrots are chopping up for cholent anyway. So this is and that's going to cook for 12 hours. So this is a nice thing to make in the meantime. So I'm adding the carrots. Now this is, you could use green or red cabbage. You slice it really, really thin, like just into little strips like that. And it gives a nice texture and a crunch to the whole mixture. And you want to make sure you're microwaving it so that the cabbage is really very, very soft. And that's when you'll know it's ready. Okay, I've got 1.5 cups of, this is actually pizza sauce. We said tomato sauce. You could use, chopped up diced tomatoes, but some kind of tomato pasty product. I'm going to put that on top. And optional, I sliced up a bit of tomato. You don't have to because you already got the tomato sauce or tomato paste. Okay, tofu. A lot of people aren't used to cooking with tofu. So here. So when you buy the tofu, it comes in a container this size. So you just pour the water out. What I do, I take the whole square. You buy firm tofu. You take the whole square and you put it between 2 plates, and you just press the plates over the sink and get as much water out of it as you can so it has a better texture. All right, and then once you've done that, then you can cut it. I just diced it into cubes like that. So I'm going to pour the tofu cubes in. All right. If you want to make this a meat or fish dish, I would not put in the tofu. Cook the whole thing. And then you can add either canned tuna or pieces of cooked chicken, and that's delicious. You have a whole vegetable dish with the onions and carrots, and add cubes of cooked up chicken. So that's a way to make it meat. All right, next we're going to add soy sauce. Again, some of the same ingredients, so just liberally, you can't really go wrong. If you like soy sauce, add a lot. If you don't like it, strong flavor, just add a bit.
Rabbi, we have another question.
Sure.
Rabbi?
Sure.
Ramona asked, could you use paneer instead of tofu? It seems it's a similar consistency.
You're going to have to tell me, Ramona, what paneer is. It says that cheese? I would
it's like an Indian cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese, yeah, probably
it's
delicious.
not, but it's not like it's not Canadian cottage cheese. It's not like, you want to just bring some? I'll show you. It's very similar. It's like compressed into a block, kind of like tofu,
Right.
but it's an Indian cottage cheese. I can show you something. That's what I have in my house. I don't have tofu,
So
but I have.
when you cook it, does it melt like regular cheese?
No, it
Oh, so I would
doesn't.
say yes, for
So
sure.
this is it.
Yeah, probably delicious. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would cut it into little cubes.
Yeah, you can cut it into cubes. This is frozen because we used half, but you can cut it into cubes and then it softens, but it doesn't melt like cheese.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah,
It is kind of hard. Yeah.
with those vegetables, how could you go wrong with chickpeas?
Right.
Yeah,
And
it'd
it's
be
still vegetarian. Yeah. Okay.
good. Yeah.
Thank
So I would
you.
keep it vegetarian. Yeah, and again, if you want meat, if you want it to be meat or fish, don't use paneer, don't use tofu, and add cubed chicken once it's cooked, like cooked chicken, or just add tuna from a can and stir it in. All right, now the spices. Here's where you can have a lot of fun, because like the cholent, you can't really go wrong. So the basics would be, okay. So for basics, I would use oregano, I would use thyme, I would use rosemary, any of those herbs that go well with vegetables. And I would be very liberal with your spices, because the flavors are going to get absorbed into the tofu and into the tomato sauce. Okay, so that's so that was oregano I just put on. I also I like garlic, so I would use garlic. And again, fairly liberally. And what else we got here?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
can you use fresh garlic?
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. Yes. I just happen to have, like if you take a whole clove like this and just break it open, and I would put like maybe, like the pieces inside, I would put like 5 or 6 of them in there, and they'll get soft, and then when you stir it, it'll be really good. Yeah, so real garlic or garlic powder. Again, if you like cumin, you can add some cumin. I like caraway. You can add caraway. It's pretty much any spice flavor that you like that will go with your vegetables and with the tofu. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
I have a question. One question I have is that could you use lamb meat? The reason I ask is that there is a traditional lamb eggplant dish called moussaka. And it adds a wonderful texture, or even ground lamb. But the other thing is a technical bit, and that is that there are many cooks that recommend that before you throw your eggplant in order to reduce the bitterness, you put not fine salt but kosher salt over all the surfaces and let it sit and drain for about 30 minutes. Rinse it off, squeeze it out, and it really helps to get rid of a lot of the bitterness that eggplant can lend to a dish.
You could do that. When I'm making this, I don't, again, because it's going to really cook long and with all the other flavors. But yeah, there are people that will put salt on for the bitterness of eggplant. Let me just double check. I think we're pretty much, rosemary is also delicious in this. So you want to add rosemary. Then this one I would stir.
Rabbi?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think when you put all the ingredients, you said mayonnaise. Is there mayonnaise that goes in here too?
Yes. However, mayonnaise is the one ingredient you don't put in until after it's cooked. Okay? I have it at the very bottom of my page. And what happens is the tomato sauce and the very small amount of mayonnaise makes it really creamy and delicious. So that ingredient you don't add. Now, I think it was Ellen that asked about stirring the cholent. I said you didn't have to. This dish I would stir very well before it goes in.
Oh.
And okay, and then the one ingredient you hold off on, and I actually have it here. I have 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise in a little dish. So you're going to take your bowl. Again, it's just one bowl, no mess. Put the microwave cover on it and put it in for 12 minutes. Let it sit for 5. put it in another 12, because these are dense, the vegetables, it takes a while for them to cook. And if it's not as soft as you want, I usually taste a little piece of the onion or the carrot. Because you want it really mushy, I like it. And then I put in for another 12. And then the last piece you do is add a bit of mayonnaise and stir. And I'll show you the picture again, because it's really very delicious, and it looks really nice. Hold on. And I like the picture. Hold on. Share. Oops. Why is this not working? Ah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So I just put a little bit of lettuce on a dish, pile it in the middle, and it could be a 4-spice. You could also serve it as a side dish with meat. Or if you're putting in, you know, if you're having just, you know, a lighter lunch, you got the tofu in for your protein, or if you add the chicken or tuna, this whole thing becomes your meal. And again, when you taste it at the end, if you want to add spice, you can add spice when it comes out and stir. So that's my story. Cholent and delicious eggplants and onion.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Rabbi, hi. When you use the microwave, you didn't say at what level you put it.
High.
There's all different levels of
Yeah, you put it at high.
High.
High, yeah. Yeah, high for 12. Take it, leave it, let it sit for 5. High for another 12. And if it's not soft enough, you could do a third 12.
That's a lot of
wattage microwave.
I'm
What
sorry,
wattage
what?
microwave?
One more time.
What wattage microwave or is this?
My wife says 1,000. I use the one that's there. Yeah. So it's a very forgiving dish. I mean, you couldn't really go wrong. If you wanted to cook it more, you would just cook it more. The best thing about this, one dish, no mess, and while it's in the microwave, you can go do something else, and then bring it out, and you've got a whole meal in a bowl. Yeah. Question?
Michelle has a question.
Yeah.
Right. Can you cook that on the stove as well, like a slow cook on the stove, or it's just?
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, sure. If you put I would cover it, and I might add a little bit more water so that the vegetables wouldn't burn as they're cooking.
Person on earth that does not have a microwave. I don't have a microwave. I feel like I'm a person that may not have one, but I just never grew up with one. So right. I was just wondering if you could do that dish on the stovetop.
I would add some water to it.
Okay.
So that the vegetables don't burn as they're cooking, because they're going to start out hard.
Right.
Water, put a lid, and I'd say at a low temperature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah. Okay. I want to say, I'm going to end with one note, since I'm a rabbi teaching you, and I taught you a Shabbos dish. You know, there's a lot of Shabbat is often taught as restrictions, which is really too bad. And it's taught as there are things that are work and you don't do them. It's not that at all. The word melacha in the Torah is creative acts. God spends 6 days, you know, whether it's a metaphor or literal, creating, and then God steps back for a day to kind of refresh himself. And it's a model for us. We're meant to be creative in the world, and the way that we keep our juices going is to step back and refresh ourselves a bit. So, like for instance, you know, one of the things that you don't do is plowing, or planting, or certain kind of cooking. It's not that those aren't good; those are great things to do. You know, well, here's a good example. We fast on Yom Kippur. We don't fast because eating is bad. Eating is great, and in fact, when Yom Kippur is over, we have a big meal to celebrate the end of Yom Kippur. The stepping away from eating is a time for us to think about how we consume things, maybe look at our life a little more, you know, from our minds, a little more spiritually, and to refresh ourselves. So this whole notion that you don't cook and therefore we have cholent, the idea is to take a day that we're and actually this is a very modern message. You know, in modern times, there's this kind of message that as long as you're creating something, you're valuable to society. And the minute you're not working or you can't contribute, you're kind of tossed out. The whole notion of a Shabbat is, I want you to create, God says, but when you're not creating, you're equally valuable because you have intrinsic value. So it's just a day to kind of refresh. So I want to give that to people, kind of rethink the idea of Shabbat, since we're talking about Cholent. So I want to thank everybody. If there's any more questions, of course, I'm happy to answer.
So the crock pot's on a low, on the lowest,
Yeah,
right?
very low. Oh, you could do it two ways. You could put it on high for 2 hours and then put it on low for like 6 hours, or you could just leave it on low, for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. But you do want to keep checking the water level and keep refilling the water, and keep checking if you want to add more spice. You'll be surprised how much spice it could take. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
very often one uses oil with eggplant because it will absorb a huge amount of oil.
Right.
I can't remember, does this require oil or not?
I'm glad you reminded me. The one thing I do with this is I spray the bowl really well with Pam, just so it doesn't stick. Not so much to add oil because the vegetables become very soft and the liquid comes out of them, but just to make it easy, when you're finished, you want to spray the bowl with Pam.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I did I did everything and didn't spray. Am I going to be okay?
You are so okay. You're so okay. It'll be fine. And it's a glass bowl. Did you use a glass bowl?
I use a very big glass bowl.
It'll be fine. The worst is you'll soak it a bit. It'll be fine. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm actually curious. Did anybody else besides me cook along with the rabbi? Ramona, I see her hand lifted.
Okay. So we should all we should all talk tomorrow morning, those who cooked.
Absolutely. Well, the taste test for you is when Jacob tries it tomorrow morning, because he's the big Cholent guy.
Yeah.
We'll get the Jacob seal of approval.
The big thing I want you to watch for is as you taste it, do you want to add more spice? Because likely you will. People are afraid to put too much garlic, too much pepper, but it absorbs a ton and you want it to be delicious. So just try the other things, like try some oregano. I know you guys don't like cumin, but just try some.
Oh, you remember from last week? I'm very complimented. You remember? Wassermans don't eat cumin.
You could put in a little bit of thyme, would be really good, or rosemary would be really nice with the meat.
Oh, good.
And what kind of oil? Just what kind of oil?
I personally like to use olive oil because it makes me think of Israel, and it's a clean.
Okay. Okay.
Vegetable oil.
That's fine.
I use olive oil.
How do you leave overnight and put a little bit of water? It's not gonna explode.
No. You mean we have in our crock pot you could set it. Most crock pots you could set for a certain number of hours. So like if you set it for 8 hours, 6 or 8 hours at a low temperature, even if it goes off, let's say it goes off at 4 in the morning, it's still sitting because all the ingredients are very hot. So it's still warming and cooking itself, and it'll be fine. Even if it goes off at 4 in the morning, then you check it at 8 in the morning. And if you want to cook it some more, you do. Or if it's ready, it's ready. And even when it's 8 in the morning, you could add a bit of water and stir it. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I never use overnight cooking. I'm afraid.
No. Especially with a crock pot, you preset it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So I'm going to stop the Facebook Live for now. Hold on.
Okay.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Rabbi. We're very excited that you taught us so many things today. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything? No?
If I may speak for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's next week? Who's cooking next week?
Exactly. Besides saying big thank you to Rabbi Biller, of course, and
yes.
I would like to invite you next Sunday to my kitchen for cooking vegetarian borscht. I have lots to say in show. See you then.
Good.
Vegetarian borscht. Nice.
And it's a hot borscht, which is unusual.
Right.
Yeah.
Irene, when it says when you need beets, these are fresh beets that not cooked
beets. Fresh beets, but you could use those which are sold, I'll show you one.
So everyone, just so you know, tomorrow morning The email is going to go out with your shopping list for the ingredients
If you don't have fresh beets, sorry to interrupt, you could always use this.
Oh, good.
You get those at Trader Joe's.
Color would be slightly different, not as bright as from fresh beets, but you could certainly use this.
But these are cooked, no?
Good.
These are cooked.
For those who don't want to go in too much trouble, you could buy actually canned beets in their juice, sliced. That's probably would be the easiest way. I would recommend fresh beets, but there are variations, as you see. So sliced beets from the can, you just open the can, you give them a proper shape, you chop them, you put them in the pot, and you use juice as well if you use the beet from the can. But I would recommend the fresh ones.
Okay, so
Is this
tomorrow.
gonna be a cold wash or a soup wash?
There's a minion for Helene Zipkin, who lost her father this week, and Dina sent out a link, so that's in a couple minutes.
Right. Okay, so Michelle, it's going to be a warm cooked borscht.
Oh, no, like a soup.
Yeah.
Like a soup.
Yes.
I love it. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
And that's a great recipe for it. It's great the first day and fantastic the second day around. So if you ever want to do something original for the Passover next day or day in the middle, like Hamoed, Passover, it's great. You could cook it 1 or 2 days in advance and then warm it up on the stove, and it will be fantastic.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the email's going out tomorrow with your shopping list of ingredients that you're going to need for Irene's warm vegetarian borscht. We will meet back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. And we look forward to seeing you then. And also, please, as you get off of this, please sign on to our evening service for Helene Zipkin. As the rabbi said, she lost her father, so we're having a special Shiva Minyan tonight. So we will see you hopefully on the next Zoom account. Okay?
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, Dina.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.